To me,
Yeah.
I know there's lots of people up in the air. Oh my goodness, AI is going to destroy jobs and it's going to do this. Yeah, it may, but it's also going to create a tremendous number of opportunities. I went into ChatGPT and I said, all right, so here's what we did. Ask me what questions you need so you can help me craft an honest response that's not throwing my team under the bus. If there are questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your continued trust in our service. Pretty darn good.
All right, you beautiful, beautiful motherfuckers. I'm sorry I have to be the one to swear. We got a man of faith here, Jonathan, who is a real wizard. I've been following Jonathan for a while now, and he's got an awesome chat GPT group, which is what we're going to connect on today. He's also an amazing seven-figure agency owner himself. We were kind of talking a little bit off air about all the cool stuff they're up to. But today I wanted to bring him on to focus on some of the cool stuff you guys can do with AI. I think we've all seen the party trick of like, hey, chat GPT, write me an article. But I want to show you guys some of the cool stuff today that Jonathan's up to. I don't necessarily have an agenda for this talk other than we were just talking about some cool stuff. So firstly, Jonathan, appreciate you, my man. I think a lot of our people actually know you already, but for those who don't, say hello.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you reaching out, Frankie. Loving to have a conversation about it. As we were talking pre-call, it's this whole AI thing is obviously growing like crazy. It's wildfire. Nobody knows everything. My goal is really simple. I want to figure out how to use it to make my agency more efficient, how to deliver better stuff to my clients, and ultimately how to use it to make some money. And in the process, I figure there's no better way to do it than to collaborate with people like yourself and others and learn from each other. I've learned so much already from other people that are playing around going, did you know you could do this? Or, hey, have you ever thought about that? And, learning things, for example, just the other day, I learned, hey, I can use ChatGPT as a consultant when I've got a question I need to solve and say, look, here's my question. Ask me as many questions as you want until you have enough information to give me an intelligent response. And it will do that. And it's just like talking to your therapist or your consultant or your attorney or whomever. Now, obviously, you got to check the content that's coming out, but there's so much that we haven't even scratched the surface on. To me, I know there's lots of people up in the air. Oh my goodness, AI is going to destroy jobs and it's going to do this. Yeah, it may, but it's also going to create a tremendous number of opportunities. And that's what I'm interested in is what are those opportunities and how can we use it for good, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. I think for a lot of people who are consumers as a whole, and I'm not saying they're like bad people, but I just mean purely economically are not contributing a lot to the world. It probably does mean like loss of jobs and things like that. But for people like us who are using it to produce value in the world and to help clients and to serve things, like I actually think it's an amazing tool. I don't know if you'd be open to maybe we could start on the screen sharing and have a little chat GPT therapy session, as you mentioned, where we can kind of use it as a consultant. I'd love to just show like maybe like 3-4 cool things that we can potentially do with it that like a lot of folks aren't thinking about, especially because you're an agency owner yourself. Like you can think about like specifically how to use it in our world.
No, I'd be happy to. Let me go ahead and get a window set up here and share it. I think one of the big things, especially in the agency world, from my perspective, is it's about a lot more than just creating content. Yeah, content, it does a great job. It writes some mean blog posts and it does things like that, but it does so much more in my mind than just create content.
Yeah.
So
can I just say, while you're loading this up, by the way, I can confirm what you say as you bring community together about it, you learn things in ways you couldn't imagine. Like if I can have one person come to me and say, hey, I'm really good at generating leads, but I don't know how to close any of my own sales conversations. And then like literally 10 minutes later, somebody will say, I know how to close sales conversations once you give them to me, but I don't know how to generate leads. And like literally, if you just kind of like cross-pollinate their knowledge, like they both have the solution to the other one's problem, and you look like a genius, but it's literally just back-to-back conversations like coming together. And I think you doing that with GPT and AI in general, like it just brings stuff to you in ways you couldn't have possibly imagined.
Oh no, and I totally agree. It's a learning process. If it's in an iterative process, I love ChatGPT. I've been using it a lot. This week I've been in the Mid-Journey. I'm on a Mid-Journey kick because it's like, oh, this is all new and exciting, and I love photography. So I don't know if I've generated anything worthwhile, but I've been having a lot of fun. And as I always remind my wife, me playing, as I like to say it, is what makes us money in the long term, because I come up with ideas and I learn things, and you stumble across things, you meet people, and you find things out. So yeah, where do you want to start with Chat GTP? What do we want to
Well,
start with?
I love this idea of like a therapy question of like where you mentioned as a consultant. Maybe we could use an example like for you of something you've already done and like kind of just rehash it as an example here of like ask me questions to help me get to the bottom of blank. And before you do that, I want to just give a shameless plug, by the way, because this is something I've been working at really hard in the background, but we're actually about to launch the first AI platform where you're able to buy and sell AI art. It is not quite at launch, but we are literally less than weeks away. And so you'll actually be able to sell your Mid-Journey art as crypto or for crypto if you'd like to.
Sweet. Oh, make sure I get an invite to that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. All right. Well, let's see. So I got to admit, I use ChatGPT so much during the day. It's on my phone. It's a shortcut. It helps me answer all kinds of questions. Let me just be totally vulnerable and give you one that happened today. So not really consultant, but a little bit. We did some keyword research for a client of ours, a brand new client. The keyword research was spot on. Unfortunately, it was for the wrong audience, and it wasn't the audience they wanted to reach out to. So client sends an email, hang on, what, you guys missed it, this is wrong, it's the wrong audience. And the client was right, we made an error, it had not gotten transferred right. And so I had to then go, okay, not really damage control, we've still got a good relationship, but I had to explain to the client what happened. And one of the things I did is I went into Chat GTP and I said, all right, so here's what we did, ask me what questions you need so you can help me craft an honest response that's not throwing my team under the bus. And it did an amazing job of crafting a wonderful email that basically said, oh, it's my fault, which I'm perfectly fine with. Here's what happened. Here's how we're going to fix it. And oh, by the way, here's the resolved solution. And the client's like, oh my goodness, you guys fixed that in no time. That's amazing. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that's one I actually
Let's
did
start
this
there
morning.
because I think that's actually huge. I mean, this happens all the time, and I see this in a million different forms. We're humans, so like we make mistakes with stuff, and I would call that maybe like a potential like quality control, but like so much of it is when you make mistakes is how you own it and how you respond. And I don't think people like that is a lost art. That like there's just one example. Like if you have clients for more than like 3 months, as the churn model, as we kind of talked about a little bit off air, you're going to screw something up. Like it's just or misunderstands something that they asked you for, and like knowing how to do, I don't even want to say damage control, but like to make it right, like to turn lemons into lemonade.
Yeah. All right, well, let me type this out here a minute. I'll read it to everybody because it's hard to read on the screen. Finish up real quick here a minute. All right.
So that last prompt is really smart. And I think, by the way, I just want to add, usually folks who've had employees find this easier than folks who haven't, because it's, you're used to like you tell an employee to go do something and they come back and it's not quite perfect, like what you had in mind. And then you need to refine what you tell them. So this is like a ask me questions to help gather the information to provide an effective response. That's really clever.
Well, and I want to say, I find it talking to ChatGPT like I might an employee or a team member is really helpful. It's helpful. So what I need to write an email to a client about an error on how we're going to respond. We provided keyword information that was good, but for the wrong audience. We will fix this. Please ask me questions to gather information you need in order to provide me with effective response email. Now, I could have it ask me one question at a time, but for sake of clarity, I'm just going to have it ask me all the questions. We'll respond really quickly, and then we'll go ahead and see what it says. So it says, to help me write an effective response, I need some information. One, what's the name and designation of the client you're addressing? So I'm not going to be totally candid there, but we'll just say it's ABC. We'll put it in ABC Manufacturing. And I really don't need a designation. I'm not sure. We'll just say CEO Wayne Smith. 2, what's the nature of the business and the client's project? So they manufacture wooden bowls from trees and we are building a new website. Sorry, making this up as I go along. So hopefully it makes sense when we're done here. 3, the intended audience for the keyword information. So we should have, let's see, intended, I don't need to tell it the intended audience, it knows. So intended audience was to be people wanting to buy bowls as corporate gifts. And what audience did the error affect? So that should be good. 4, how do we become aware of the error? Client emailed us. 5, what specific steps will your team take to correct the error? Redo keyword research and respond to client today. 6, what's the estimated time frame for resolving the issue? Today. And 7, will there be any potential impact on the project timeline? No. 8, are there any additional measures you plan to take to prevent such errors in the future? Yes, but I'm not going to detail them. 9, would you like to offer any compensation or goodwill? Nope. All right, let's see what it says. So, subject, correction of keyword information for ABC Manufacturing's website. Dear Mr. Smith, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to address the issue that has come to our attention regarding the keyword information provided for the website of ABC Manufacturing. We recently received your email notifying us of an error in the keyword information we provided. The data was intended for the audiences interested in purchasing wooden bowls as corporate gifts, but we mistakenly targeted the wrong audience. Please accept our sincere apologies for this oversight. Our team has already begun the process of correcting the mistake by redoing the keyword research. We will ensure that the new data accurately represents the intended audience for your wooden bowls. We plan to complete this process and send you the updated keyword information by the end of today. We want to assure you this error will not impact the project timeline or the deliverables. In order to prevent such mistakes in the future, we will implement additional quality control measures during the keyword research and review process. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation, and we will remain committed to delivering a successful website project for ABC Manufacturing. If you have any concerns or questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your continued trust in our service. Pretty darn good.
Can I just add, by the way, like if you actually send this to a client, like, obviously we're using a fictitious wooden bowls example, just kind of make a point, but you get like brownie points times 1,000. Like, I just want to quickly like illustrate the difference. I ordered a Bitcoin miner, which is, you can probably actually hear it behind me a little bit. And I remember as part of the shipping process into Mexico, there's like a form you got to slip into as like a customs kind of form to get across the border. And the company didn't do it. And so it got held up at the border, and I alerted them and they said, shipping is in our department. I'm saying, it's not shipping. There's a form they need from you to process it. And they just kept putting me off. And I kind of like, I was kind of an asshole, to be honest. So I was like, listen, I'm gonna take this up with my credit card and demand like a refund now. And I'm gonna make sure to like leave you guys some bad reviews, because I've asked you like 6 different times to fix this. Like, I'll even fill out the form for you, just like, it has to come from you. They won't accept it from me, right? Like, so I'll give you the paperwork, just do it so I can get my miner. And eventually they did it, but it was like the whole thing was miserable, and it left a taste in my mouth because they weren't willing to acknowledge or fix their error that said, like, I'll never do business with these people ever again. This is the first and only time. And I remember as a comparable thing, I ordered probably a little oversharing, but I ordered a Nintendo Wii for myself. It was like a gift from me to me. I have a hard time buying myself stuff, but I bought myself a Nintendo Wii. And there was an issue with one of the games I bought, The Legend of Zelda. It wasn't going to make it, and I contacted eBay support and said, like, what should I do? Because like sometimes stuff just doesn't arrive in Mexico. And they said, well, we'll give you a refund, and if it shows up, you can just keep it. And it's like, wow, cool. Like now I feel like, okay, like I'm in good hands. And it was only like, $20 or something like that. But it just the way they handled it and bound. And the same thing is true in the agency space, is all that make every business is kind of the same. Like what Jonathan just showed you guys, when a little error with a client happens, if you get into a pissing match and say it's not our problem, you ensure that client will cancel later. If you say, hey, you're absolutely right, we're taking these steps to fix it, we appreciate you, here's what we're doing to remedy it now and in the future, like that's a totally different response.
No, and the other thing, I don't know if everybody's aware of or not, but I'll go back and share the screen again. when you're in ChatGTP, if you stay in that same tab, it remembers the conversation. So the neat thing is I can now ask a follow-up question. I know you're familiar with, we can do blind voicemails to people, but just drop it in their voicemail. And so, I just asked it as a follow-up, write a script for me for a blind voicemail to send to the client regarding this issue as a follow-up. And sure, here it is. Here's my script now that I can literally take a moment, record, put into my system as a blind voicemail, send to him, and it's going to, show up in his voicemail. No risk of him calling, no risk of me having to have a conversation and go over things. Just another follow-up, another touch point, kind of like you were just saying, that one more example of we care and we're doing something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually these voicemail drops, I can attest to the power of them. We actually back, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, when we still did sales calls before we transferred everything over to like Loom closing. I remember it was an issue for us that like just getting people to show up for the sales calls they booked. And we tried everything that like everybody suggested, like, a gazillion reminders and all those things. And people just found, like, for whatever reason, it was like early funnel. They didn't know us, and it was just very easy for them to flake. And we were having like show up rates of like 50%. And there's nothing worse than you got like an hour and a half blocked out on the calendar, and then all of a sudden like nobody's there. And a friend of mine suggested what you just said, a blind voice drop, of like add in a blind voice drops. And we set it up technologically using a tool called Sly Broadcast. And you could use Go High Level or something equivalent now, like, but we use Sly Broadcast. And I remember it just sent an automated blind voicemail, and it just like, hey, this is Frankie, I'm really excited for our call. I saw you just booked. Here's what we're going to go over. Here's like, the nature of the discussion. If at the end of that you're interested in our services, we'll tell you how much. If you're not, like, there's no pitch. Nobody's going to chase you or harass you or anything like that. And it's like a minute voice drop. And we found as soon as we added that personal touch, and the beautiful thing, there was a delay in the software. It took like 10 minutes to actually go out. Like it didn't happen automatically. So it almost sounded like I really just called you and said, I'm excited to meet with you. And what happened is our show up rates went from like 50% to like more than 95%, where it was almost like everybody showed. And the few times they didn't, we're like, I got stuck in traffic. I'm still interested. Can I reschedule a time? But it was like, it went from people like ghosting us, mostly not interested. And all that changed was a little 60-second personalized note. So, I mean, what you're talking about is really powerful.
We found it to be really effective, although I'm going to steal that because we could improve our show up rates on appointments, and that might be an easy way to do it.
You get to credit my man Rob Ramoni, because he's the one who thought of that. He's way smarter than me. I just was smart enough to go, that's a good idea, I'm going to copy that.
Hey, you and I said up front, it's not about us being smart. It's about us being cognizant enough to see a smart idea and then to implement it. I mean, I don't have to have the idea. I just want to be able to implement it.
Yeah, and what you're doing, I think, is particularly brilliant. I'll put a link for those of you guys who are interested below, but Jonathan's got an awesome AI community for you guys to be part of. Like, just bringing in high-level people together, like, smart things are going to come out of it, and not all just from you. Things you haven't even thought of, questions you would have never thought to ask, or ideas you would have never come up with. I wonder if there's maybe like 2 or 3 more things we could show that are cool stuff that you're using it for.
Sure.
Like, especially like day-to-day stuff beyond just like, hey, let's make some content.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. Another thing I use it for a lot is, you and I are both in a lot of different organizations, networking. People recommend books to us all the time. They're like, hey, you need to read this book. And I love to read, but I admit I don't have time to read all the books that are recommended to me. I think one of the things I do almost every day is somebody's like, you need to read this book. And before I go to read it or buy it, actually, I just I'm gonna pick on. Well, here I've got a podcast guest coming up here shortly. We'll give Kath a bonus here. So her book's called Holistic Email Marketing. Let's so give me an executive summary of holistic email marketing by Kath Pay. Just happened to be on my desk, so it's easy to remember, and include actionable insights, if I could spell, from the author. And I love this because this is going to give me a quick summary of what's in this book. And now I can determine, okay, is this something I want to buy? Do I want to learn all the details? Because I might. Or is it something that I can go, okay, I got the details. And what I really love here is I can now go in and say, so she talks about one of the key insights is the business should focus on creating relevant, engaging email content that resonates with their audience. No big surprise. But if I want to learn more about that, I can just say, tell me more about what Kath says about, and I'll paste that in. Oops, that's my Midjourney prompt. We don't want that one. Let's see here.
Nice. Actually, maybe we could take a second and actually show like a new Midjourney prompt, because
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody is like I know everybody in our community has at least heard of Chat GPT, but I don't know if everybody knows about Midjourney.
And so again, just relevant. And I can dig deep. I've actually taken some books and just really dug into them just through Chat GTP.
Yeah.
I also have done it a lot with articles. Somebody sends me an article, somebody on my team, hey, here's a great article about X. I got one the other day about Google and of course, EAT and all that. And while I don't do the SEO, I like to at least be up to speed on it. And I didn't really want to take the time. It was like a 5,000 word article. I threw the URL in here and ChatGPT gave me a response. I will say that's an interesting thing, and I don't know how it happens, but they say ChatGPT can't access the web, but I can give it a blog link from 3 days ago and it will tell me what's in that article.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's also there's a plugin I use called Web Chat GTP, and it'll allow it to parse Google search results. So like a lot of times,
cool.
like one of my secrets that we use a lot in our mastermind is really just like figuring out where all the buyers, where all the players are in your industry, where all the flow is already, and tap into that. But the problem with that is, in some ways, it's like it's a little bit counter to action, because instead of just like sending a message to 10,000 dentists as people want to do, we're now figuring out like who are the players in the dental space already. And so it's research, and it's like painstaking, and it's not always easy to explain to a VA because there's nuance to it. But like you can just tell ChatGPT, like, give me a list of all the conferences, and it goes, these are the conferences, these are the links, these are the people who own them, in like 5 minutes. And then as far as the use you just mentioned, I've seen it not with the free version, but with the OpenAI Playground version, where you can send it links. And I'm not necessarily using this, but I just have people who showed me like videos and podcasts. It can summarize for you, because this is a thing too that you can attest to, is that once you start building community, like not that it's necessarily like every day is the same, but you get a lot of messages and people send you a lot of things to watch. And I literally don't have time to watch even 10% of what people send me, but it's, if somebody sends you something that they've really thought about and they really thought it would be funny to you or interesting to you or useful or insightful, it doesn't always go over so well when you're like, yeah, I'm too busy, I'm not watching that. And so it helps at least be able to summarize and say, hey, I appreciate you thinking of me about A, B, and C, right? Like, because, and that shows like I've read it, I've taken it to heart, and you appreciate that, but it saves you a massive amount of time of having to parse through. Like, as if you get 50 people send you a 5,000 word article, you could spend 3 days just on that.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's great for that. We used it. I used it earlier today. While I'm not a big fan of using ChatGPT for keyword research, because I don't think it always gets the right information. I had a client send me his entire AdWords keyword list, and he's like, "Can you please analyze this, take a look at it, and recommend the top 20 keywords that we should be using in the content on the new website that we're creating?" And I don't have the time to go through it, candidly. My team's swamped today. He wanted a response right away. I literally copy and pasted the spreadsheet into ChatGPT and said, please analyze, told him who the audience was. And of course, it had the CPC data and the competition data and all that. And I said, give me the top 20 keywords that I should be including in my website content in order to have the maximum impact on growing my business. Literally within 5 seconds, it had analyzed it and it sent it back. I did a proofread on it, obviously. It changed a few of them that I didn't agree with, but it took something that would have taken me hours to have dug through. And literally in 10 minutes, I had an answer.
Yeah.
Now, was it the perfect answer?
Hours,
I don't know, but it was good.
It's unfun work. Let's just spell that out, right? Like from an
absolutely
energy, like digging through a spreadsheet of keywords like go after these 20. If you're like a CEO visionary type, which I know you are, like obviously, I mean, you
Yes.
look like a wizard because you are one.
It's the beard.
If you're open to it, I know you got a limited amount of time because you're going to do a podcast in a little bit, but if maybe we could show like just a little bit of what you can do with Midjourney for
Yeah,
folks who've never
absolutely.
done that
Let me
before.
share my screen here a minute.
So for those of you guys who've never played around with Midjourney, it is a Discord server. It's like an old school like chat room server where you can type in a prompt and then you wait anywhere from like 10 to 60 seconds and it'll spit out images of whatever you suggested to. So like you can create original images for really whatever you can imagine. Art, logos, like you can tell it to make logos if you want. We were actually playing around the other day just like for a local project we're working on with a friend, and they were like, what do we need for logos and how much designers? I was like, designers, let's just put that into Midjourney, we'll have a logo in 15 seconds. Show me a couple you like and I'll come up with a prompt and we'll have it done just like that.
So I'm going to create something that's totally irrelevant, but it'll be fun. So I just put in here lion in a forest of trees that are on fire. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple of prompts. I've learned that when you're doing Midjourney, one of the most important things you can do is not give it too much. And I've seen some of these prompts that are like paragraphs long. Midjourney will get somewhat confused. So I'm just going to say, try something really off the top. Lion in a forest with trees on fire. National Geographic. We've all seen National Geographic, so use a National Geographic style. Professional color grading, soft shadows, no contrast, clean, sharp focus, cinematic photography, and please make it a aspect ratio of 3:2. Those going to take a second. Of course, while we're on it, it'll always be slow because we're doing a call and showing it. And it'll give me 4 image options. And then out of those options, you can see up here while we're waiting, I had done one about a happy, confident home service professional sitting at a home with a homeowner at a kitchen table in a modern home. Sunny, well-lit, National Geographic, I used the same stuff. And it gave me 4 images. I could upscale any of those images if I wanted to, and it would then create a higher res version. And while I'm not an attorney, from what I've read from Midjourney and everybody else, if I'm on a paid plan, I can use these images commercially. So keeping in mind again that I'm not the attorney, but based on that. So let's take a look. So here's our images.
If you guys have never used this, you can suggest styles, like if you want it like in Picasso art style or whatever. If you want it like water, like you can suggest, you can hyper real. Like I've seen a lot of it. You'll learn if you just go on there. If you just go into groups and watch other people making image requests in front of you, you'll learn things about what you can potentially use it for.
Let's try one I've never done, and I don't know how to work with fire, but we'll do Ansel Adams style. And we'll just see, it should give us, I'm guessing, a black and white or something. We'll see. But again, we can see here. So those are the images it gave me. I can pick any of those. I can change those. I can even go in and change the prompt. And if I took this exact same prompt and just changed it from like cinematic to digital, in fact, I was going to do a video on this, but we'll give everybody a preview. So I'll keep everything the same. I'm just going to change it from cinematic photography to digital photography. And we'll see here in a second that it will create a very different looking image based on that. So as you said, there's lots and lots of YouTube videos on different guides and different styles, but Midjourney is a lot of fun to play with if you like imagery at all. And like you said, you can do all kinds of different things, including logos and mock-ups. I saw somebody do a floor plan the other day in our AI group. They were asking, hey, how do we do that? Again, another just a great opportunity to learn from people as to what's going on.
Yeah, there's lots of for those of you guys who are creating content, because that's the low-hanging fruit with Chat GPT, there's lots of ways to enhance your content with imagery that, like, again, it's just a couple of quick buttons that brings it to life. Like I feel like Chat GPT, like everybody loves it for article writing, but it does, at least for me, it leaves like a flavor that I can tell that it's Chat GPT. Like there's just a format that it uses, and like one of the simplest ways to enhance it, like say you're writing content for a plumber and your industry is plumbers, like, you know, you could very easily prompt it to like show an image of a leaky faucet and then to show an image of the plumber fixing it, and then an image of like, hey, we're satisfied and we're saying goodbye. Like there's lots of different ways you could potentially use this as, you know, a tool for clients or for yourself, or, you know, to just to enhance the content you're already making.
Oh,
Or just have fun with
absolutely.
it and make lines in the woods on fire.
Well, just as weird. I happened to watch a video. They did a wolf on the beach. So I'm like, okay, don't do wolf on beach because you just watched that video, Jonathan. But lion in the forest, okay. Not, and again, not realistic, but something of interest. Obviously, it can take longer sometimes to do stuff, as we're seeing here. But the cool thing I wanted to mention that, you know, this can do, if you're doing video content, and I know, you know, we've probably got some agency owners watching here that are doing video content, and you're trying to come up with great YouTube thumbnails, Midjourney will do that. You can specify what you're looking for. The only thing I find it doesn't do well is it doesn't put text on things. So, you know, don't put the text on, bring it into Photoshop or Canva or whatever you're using to put the text on. But, you know, define the image you want, tell you want it offset so you've got room for the text. It'll create all of that for you, and you can have totally unique and engaging YouTube thumbnails. And if you're into the video stuff at all, that's a huge part of getting those views, is having a thumbnail that draws people in.
Yeah. And I would say for us personally, like in our agency over the last 3 months or so, our ability to produce like content has improved. Like one of the things I was struggling with, I remember this is a thing that just happens. There's a name for it called scope creep, and we all deal with it to a certain extent, where a client asks you, hey, I don't have anybody who knows how to do this. Can you help me with that? And it's not really what you signed up for, but you know, you do what you want to do to keep your clients happy. And there's always like a line between like, you know, don't take on work that's going to ultimately get you fired if that's not your core competency. But yeah, like I want to be valuable. In this case, the client had like 100 videos he had recorded over the year, and he wanted to get them put into YouTube. And so I just had my YouTube VA who's already doing it for me, like, hey, can you do this for the client? But the challenge was then they had to create descriptions and thumbnails for all of those things.
Yes.
And we have a process for creating thumbnails, but Filipino VA English just wasn't working. And even though the descriptions nobody really reads anyway, other than the YouTube algorithm for the most part, unless you tell people there's something in the description. But the client was unhappy because he's like, this just reads like broken English and makes my law firm, in his opinion, look unprofessional. It was like a challenge of like, how do I get this? And then right in there, Chat GPT came out, and then we had it write all the descriptions for us. And he's like, these are much better. And I'm like, we didn't really write a word of them. I just gave the virtual assistant a prompt and then like 3 words to put in, like, please write a 500-word SEO optimized description about blank topic. And then you just got to put in the blank and then the thumbnails. And then the client was super happy. So like, there's just one example of what Jonathan's talking about.
Well, and I just realized that those last 2 commands that I gave Midjourney, the reason it wasn't getting them done is I didn't actually make it a command. Like you said, it uses a interface through Discord. And if you don't type in imagine, it doesn't take it as a prompt. So I'm sitting here watching in the background while we're talking, going, why is it not done? And I'm like, oh, you forgot to tell it what to do. So the interesting thing about that, bringing kind of full circle, you know, I know a lot of us on the call probably do use ChatGPT to create content. And I'll go ahead and share the screen while this is working so we can talk about it. But I know we're using it to create content on occasion. You can have ChatGPT, and maybe we can show this prompt, but give you a series of ideas. I want to have a topic. I want you to recommend a catchy blog title, and I want you to write a Midjourney prompt for an image, for a featured image. Put this all on a table in column 1, 2, and 3, and it'll go ahead and do that for a blog post, for social media, for anything like that. And a great way to then be able to hand that off to a VA and be able to compare what's happening. So
yeah, and then they get to be able to put out like top quality work, and it took them all of 30 seconds to be able to do it.
So super quick, there's a cinematic photography in Midjourney, and the exact same prompt with digital. It's similar, but you can see there's differences in color, there's differences in the fur, there's all kinds of other things that are going on there. So it is really cool how in Midjourney you can create, just one word can change that image and what comes out of that. So kind of cool.
Appreciate it,
What
my
else
man.
you want? Yeah.
Just because I want to be super respectful of your time, because I know you got
Thank
a
you.
busy schedule. I just want to ask for those who are interested in you, what's the next move? And I'll put a link to your group for everybody who's interested in that as well.
Yeah, so if you're interested in this stuff, probably the best way to do it is either connect on my website. I share a lot of stuff there. It's just jonathanmast.com. Or right now, I admit I'm behind on posting a lot of the AI content. I post almost all that in the Facebook group. I'm not there to sell anything. I don't sell, you're not going to get offered to buy a book or anything like that. I'm here to help other entrepreneurs learn and leverage and hopefully to learn from them. And I already have. The group's been amazing in
Yeah.
teaching me stuff that I didn't know about. So yeah, join the Facebook group. It is a private group so that we monitor who comes in. When you get the questions, just say you heard about it from Frankie and I'll let you in. No big deal. But we'd love to have you join us.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, Frankie. I appreciate you. It's been a great chatting with you.
You're the man. You really are the man, by the way.
I appreciate that. All right.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll also like my book on Amazon called Beyond the Agency Box, which you can also find by my name, Frankie Finn, and it's got a lot of awesome reviews, and it really just goes deeper on a lot of things we're talking about, everything you need to grow and start a lifestyle agency, from the stages you'll go through to getting clients, to how to create winning offers, to high value deliverables, to wowing clients, to building teams, to building systems, and building a boring factory that's like a 7-figure money machine for you. So if you're interested, I put links for you in the video description, as well as it'll be in the pinned top comment below, and make sure to check those out.